Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Verdi's La Traviata, which I saw at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. And yes, this was the same production that I saw a couple of years ago, which was conceptualized by the late, great Götz Friedrich. But on the podium this evening was Maestro Ivan Repusic, and singing the title role was yet another singer I've always admired and one that I've looked up to as a role model, and one that I've been following her career, and one that I've been very excited to see live. And I'm, of course, referring to Elena Mosuc. Now, I've already said my piece on what I thought about the production, why I love this opera in particular, and why this opera was very much one of Verdi's masterpieces. So let's just cut to the chase and talk about the singers and the conducting. Starting with Elena Mosuc as Violetta Valery. Now, Elena Mosuc has been a singer I have always admired ever since I was a little boy. I basically first heard about her through chance when I was browsing through the web. And when I clicked on her biography, I was definitely amazed at the repertoire that she specialized in. She had a very vast repertoire, singing lyric coloratura roles like Zerbinetta, and then the more dramatic coloratura stuff like The Queen of the Night, Constanza, Donna Anna, Lucia Ashton, Violetta Valery, Anna Bolena, Maria Stuarda, and Norma, even to the more full lyric soprano stuff like Mimi, Musetta, Charpentier's, Louise, and even that of Liu from Turandot. I was totally amazed at the versatility that she has, especially due to the fact that she also specializes in the bel canto repertoire, much like her predecessors, Luciana Serra, Edita Grubarova, Mariela Devia, and even Beverly Sills, and to some extent Joan Sutherland. So when I first heard a couple of clips of her on YouTube singing The Queen of the Night, specifically with her first act aria O zittre nicht, mein lieber Sohn, I was totally blown away by this wonderful singer. My further admiration started to grow and develop a lot more when I heard a lot more clips of her on YouTube, singing the second aria of The Queen of the Night, De Hölle Rache, and even many other arias like Ach ich liebte from Mozart's Abduction of the Seraglio, O Luce di quest'anima from Donizetti's Linda di Chamonix, Bel raggio lusinghier from Rossini's Semiramide, and even some of her stuff from Anna Bolena, like the Cabaletta Coppia Iniqua, in which I thought she did very fabulously, and some excerpts of her Lucia, Amina, Puritani Elvira, Traviata, and of course, Gilda. But I also love her as Antonia from Tales of Hoffmann. Yes, she has also sung all four heroines, but to me, I always love her in this role in particular because it managed to show the agility that she has, it managed to show her brilliance, and also her fine, creamy timbre. And I also love her as Marguerite. So, when I heard that she was going to sing this role at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, I was totally psyched, because this was definitely the first time I have heard this magnificent singer live. And what did I think of her? I have to say that she was amazing. I really admire her commitment. I really admire the attention that she pays to the text, and she's definitely fun. Now, I also consider her to be an heir to Edita Gruberova. Yes, Diana Damrau also does have that title, and I also like to consider that, well, Elena Mosuc and Diana Damrau could almost be like sisters, if you know what I mean. Whereas Diana Damrau is the more spirited, enthusiastic, spunky, sparky younger sister, Elena Mosuc is more of the classy, full-voiced, elegant, ladylike older sister, with Gruberova being almost like the mother, so to say. all joking aside, I have to say that Elena Mosuc was absolutely fabulous. She really owned her role wonderfully. And this was a role that she has been singing for many, 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 many years. I think she sang this role somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, whatever period of time. But she really owned this role wonderfully. I really loved how she was able to hit those high notes with such clarity, brilliance, and they sounded like comets bursting from the sky, and it was just so full of silver and gold and a lot of wonderful, wonderful waves of sound. She has a very creamy sound in the middle, and when she sings, her top notes, they're like comets of gold, of silver, and even of platinum. She really does her role very well, not just vocally, but also in terms of theatricality. She was able to make Violetta a character. She was able to make her somewhat relatable as well. And I'm not going to mince words here, but in terms of her singing, in terms of her acting, and her overall performance, I have to say that she continues to own the role of Violetta with such flying colors. Singing the role of her lover, Alfredo, was a tenor I've never heard of before, but nowadays I have a chance to see him live in this role, and I'm of course referring to Vincenzo Costanzo. I've never heard of this tenor before, but watching him live was definitely a great experience. I have to say that he's definitely immersed as an actor, and as a singer, he's fine all around. Yes, there was one caveat in terms of how he sang the cabaletta in the second act, the O mio rimorso. I felt like he kind of fizzled out in that cabaletta. Yes, I can totally understand. O mio rimorso is definitely one of the toughest cabalettas for any full lyric and spinto tenors to sing and to even specialize in because of that final high C. But regardless, despite him fizzling out, despite him not being at his best in the cabaletta, he still managed to push through with such fine theatricality. Heck, he even had a very great start in the first act, and I thought he managed to do well in the second act. He kind of, like I said, he kind of fizzled out in the cabaletta, but he managed to pick himself up really well and stay pretty strong. And I thought in the third and the fourth acts, he managed to really pick himself up really well and continue to do so and give out such a very fine portrayal of Alfredo. Overall, I have to say that he was really good. He wasn't excellent nor outstanding, but he was good in his own merit. I'm sure that in 5 years' time, or even in a couple of years' time, he will be great. I do have the feeling that he's still quite young, but overall, I have to say that he was good all around. He was solid in this role. And then we have the role of Giorgio Germont, sung by yet another singer I've also followed throughout the many times I've been watching opera at the Deutsche Oper. And I'm of course referring to Markus Brück. He needs no introduction. He is wonderful in everything in everything that he sings. He is wonderful. His timbre continues to be elegant. And when he sings lyrically, he sings it with such pathos and such beauty and with such homogeneous tones. And when he is able to sing with strength, he muscles in and he lets it all out. He is a complete performer. Heck, he's always been a complete performer. Everything he's done, from the lyrical roles to the more dramatic roles, he does excellently. And this is him at his finest. And he continues to show excellence and continues to show outstanding performance after outstanding performance. And what more can I say about this guy? He is excellent. And then we go to the more minor roles, starting with Flora Bervois, sung by Yana Kurutsova, who does a very fine job with her character in terms of her silken timbre and her magnificent stage presence. And then we have the maid Anina, sung by Elbenita Kaitazzi, who was absolutely a darling in this role, with a very fine and luscious voice and a darling stage presence. Then we have the role of Barone Dufour, sung by American bass baritone Derek Welton, who has a very commanding stage presence and an equally stentorian sound. Then we have the Viscount Gaston, sung by Alvaro Zambrano, yet another singer I've been following at the Deutsche Oper for many years, and he continues to give out such very fine tones, despite some characters being quite thankless to sing. And this is him at his finest as usual. Then we have the role of Le Marquis d'Aubigny, sung by John Chest, who continues to give such a fine voice, despite this character being very thankless. He was still in fine voice and in fine form throughout the evening. And then we have Dottore Granville, sung by Dong-Hwan Lee, who I saw a couple of months ago singing the role of the Grand Inquisitor from Meyerbeer's L'Africaine. Fine as ever, despite this character being very thankless to sing. And even in the smaller roles of Giuseppe, the Messenger, and Flora's Servant, sung by Matthew Newlin, Alexei Botnarchuk, and Holger Gerberding, they were all done very well. So, yeah, overall the singing was excellent, with Elena Mosuc really being the star of the evening in terms of the title heroine, but in terms of main heroes or supporting heroes, Markus Bruck was the star out of all the male singers. So kudos to the both of you, and even kudos to Vincenzo Costanzo for continuing to muscle in despite some shortcomings. So overall, the singing was very wonderful all around. The conducting, I thought, was very solid. Yes, after the overture, it was kind of getting to a weak start in which the conducting was quite ragtag, but it managed to pick up steam and managed to pick itself up very well throughout the whole evening. And I thought that Maestro Repusic did a very fine job, despite those couple of caveats. But despite those flaws, he managed to keep himself up very well for the evening. So overall, I was actually more than impressed. Despite some of the flaws and despite some of the shortcomings that went along, I have to say that this was still a very great evening to see the wonderful Elena Mosuc really doing her thing in one of her signature roles, and I thought she did very wonderfully. And kudos to all of the fine singers, whether they be in the main roles, supporting roles, and even the tiny roles. I felt like you guys did wonderfully. Well, that's it for this review of Verdi's La Traviata starring Elena Mosuc. Tune in much later, where I give a little tribute video to Waltraud Meier, since it's also her birthday, and also a review of a documentary that starred her, which is entitled in English, called I Follow a Voice Within Me, a Portrait of Waltraud Meier. So until then, good night, everybody.